Welcome to Sink or Swim, presented by Squid Group, your digital marketing partner. In this podcast, we talk to KlipTank, a local Tauranga business, about how they have developed a unique position in the water storage industry. With a patented product which enables scalable growth, they are now providing water tanks around the world in some of the most remote locations. Learn about how they have identified the market and what has led to their success. Hope you enjoy it. Cool, welcome to Sink or Swim. It's great to have you guys on. KlipTank team, how you going?
Yeah, it's good to be here, man.
Yeah, looking forward to this.
Cool. And so we've obviously had this in pipeline for a while now, and it's exciting to see some of the things that have been going on with you guys as a business, because for those of you who don't know, KlipTank's a business based in Tauranga, but you guys are selling globally now. Correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. So how, tell me a little bit about the background and sort of where you guys have got to now.
So KlipTank has traditionally been in the effluent market, selling into dairy effluent, big storage up to 6 million litres. We have pivoted towards water in recent years and are very fortunate to have landed a deal with the United Nations 2 years ago, and we're supplying over 300 tanks to the Marshall Islands. Very interesting and quite excited about that, yeah.
Cool. And so help me understand how it works in the tank industry, let's call it, and storage space, because there's obviously small storage units that people have at their homes and say at right next to their house at say a small farm, but you guys have big storage, right?
That's right. So, the sort of storage tank that you'd have at home might be 25 or 30,000 litres, and they're generally made of plastic, and you put one beside your house or beside your barn, and that's the job done. Where we fit in is if you need more storage than what one of those sorts of tanks provide, you might have one or two of them. But when you get to 3 or 4 and you start joining them together, that's where we step in. And we've basically got tanks that start at about that 100,000 litre mark and then go way up into the millions of litres. And that's a better way of building a solution when you've got that much, when you need that much storage. To do that with small tanks is just, too complicated.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the product you guys have is quite cool. It's not like everyday kind of product. It's a patented, quite a unique product. Tell me a bit about the process of how that even came about and making sure that you do have that competitive advantage by how easy it is to build and everything else.
Yeah, around 15 years ago, a guy called Neil Pettikin saw some clip together type products overseas, and he got this idea to have an experiment at building a tank with these clip together kind of concepts. And he'd previously invented curtain side trucks and trailers and stuff like that, so he's a good engineer.
Patent, yep.
And long story short, he basically invented the KlipTank, and that's what the company is founded on. And these tanks, they are modular, and they use the same panels pretty much in all tanks, but just more of them, and it scales. And we can stack the tanks together as well, so we can build one on the bottom and another one on the top, so we can go up, or we can just get larger in diameter, more panels, and make the tank bigger and bigger, up to about 50 metres in diameter, which is 6 million litres of storage, which is really, really large.
And so how would that work then? I'm just trying to visualize that that's half a rugby field. So could you stack half a rugby field size on top of another one?
No, we don't go that big. We go up to 1 million litre stack. So of these panels, there'd be 120 in a 60 segment tank. And we'd put 2 of those 3 meters on top of one another to increase that volume to 2 million with a roof. So our stacker tanks generally are roofed as well, but we can do open top as well.
And so why would you, I'm not a farmer boy, sorry, more of a surfer boy. But tell me a little bit, like, why would someone want a roofed tank compared to an open tank?
Really important aspect of a roof tank is that it prevents sunlight from getting in, which stops your water going green with algae. It stops dust and dirt getting in. It stops animals. Birds pick up rodents sometimes, and they sometimes let them go, and they can end up in your open top tank. So if you're wanting water security for drinking purposes, it's really important to have the dust kept out of there, that they're not turning green with algae, and there's nothing else is getting in there that can contaminate the water.
Is that a little bit like a couple of months ago, I think now, there was, I think it was Queenstown, had that, like there was a big rodent that started dying in their water supply, and then no one could drink the water, I think, in the whole of Queenstown.
That's right, and people got sick as well, and they were having to boil water. So, if you're providing water to a community, it's really important that that water is safe and that it's kept secure. And so the roof is an important part of that. And our water tanks also have, stainless steel fittings and special air vents that prevent mosquitoes and various other insects from getting into the tank. And these are important things to have in a town supply, if you like. So as well as the normal water treatments, the chlorination, stuff like this. So these is over and above, just the chlorination. This is making the water secure in the tank.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you've obviously got a clear market position where you guys sit in the market, being larger tanks, and obviously a premium sort of provider. But how did you guys identify, or how did the business sort of come about in terms of growing and some of those challenges of actually, I guess, coming to market? Where did that all come from? Because that's not an easy task.
No, initially we knew that this tank could store stuff, and we didn't know exactly where it would be able to be used, but we knew that water was one of them for sure. And we secured a community water project down in the Manawatu fairly early in our life, and that sort of set the scene for our water storage solution for community waters. And we experimented with this idea of being able to put dairy effluent in it. So that was how the market of providing an alternative to a pond, which was really important because on farms that have very high water tables and soft soils, you couldn't build conventional type structures, and you also couldn't dig a pond in the ground because of the water table interference. So the KlipTank became a very, very amazing product for solving that problem, and particularly on areas where there was peat, because it's very, very soft and quite difficult to build any other structure. And the reason a KlipTank works is because it's flexible and can move around. And because peat, when it gets wet, it moves up and down and moves around like this. And the KlipTank's able to tolerate that, which also makes them very, very good for managing earthquakes as well, that ability to move like that. Wow. We had some tanks on a fault line in Kaikoura, and we had many others in the Canterbury region during the Canterbury earthquakes as well, and we had no failures, and they all survived. Some of them got pretty damaged, particularly the one in Kaikoura that was on the fault line, but it did not fail, and it's because they can move around, and it's a bit of a unique thing.
Yeah, and we were talking about this obviously a little while ago, but they're all, because they are so modular as well, right? You can take them pretty much anywhere. You don't need a helicopter to ship them in. It's all pretty much just chuck them on the back of the truck. Well,
that's what makes it so unique for this opportunity in the Marshall Islands as well. There's no other tank that you could be shipping to the Pacifics in containers for the volume that you're getting. You could maybe fit 2 or 3 small roller molder tanks inside a container. We're fitting 20 of our smaller tanks in there. So we've supplied 57,000 litre and 80,000 litre tanks to the Marshall Islands.
Correct.
And of the 80,000 litre tanks, we easily fit 20 of those tanks into a 40-foot container. with its liners and its covers and all of its spares, and even toolkits to be able to assemble it. We also have a manual and some QR codes for that manual if you don't have the hard copies, as well as some YouTube tutorials that is an instruction manual to how to put these up. So we are pretty proud to market it as 2 people, 2 days for one of those tanks. So with no experience and a little bit of site prep, anybody can put these 80,000 litre tanks up, 80,000 litre tanks up in about 2 days.
Yeah, and in some situations, the islands that they're being installed on are quite remote. So there's no official shipping line. So the component pieces are being put onto rafts and or other just little wee longboats, and they're taken out to the remote island and then assembled by the local villagers with the instructions that we've provided. And so that's been a really big point of difference, and it was one of the things that attracted the UN to the KlipTank and subsequently other island nations as well. And so that's becoming a big point of difference, and that ability to carry the small parts to remote locations, and that includes tops of hills. So very, very difficult to, if you haven't got the proper lifting equipment, trailers and heavy equipment to lift something that's heavy to the top of a hill. If it's all in small pieces that can be carried by hand, that becomes all of a sudden a lot of work, but it's achievable.
Light enough,
Yeah.
Tanks are aluminium and plastic essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's achievable, right? Like anyone can do it. I mean,
correct.
You've almost got a model there where the DIYers can basically do it, right?
And if you're not up for the task, we're also willing to go there. So next week, Sunday, 2 of our guys are flying out to Norfolk Island. We've got a 500,000 litre roof tank that's going up over there. They're supplying 2 other guys to help us, and we're going to put that tank up for them next week. It's substantially bigger than the lifestyle sort of size tanks that we've been supplying. But it shouldn't take them more than probably 4 working days to put that one up.
Yeah, and another aspect about the modularity of the tank is that in the same way that it can be put together, it can also be dismantled. And so we have customers that move these tanks. So they have projects that move, for example,
oil and gas
and drilling rigs. So they basically put the tank up alongside the drilling rig. The drilling rig might be there for 6 months, and then they move it on to another location. They pack the tank down and pack the drilling rig up and move it all to the new site and set it all up again. So those are the sorts of things that that can be achieved. And other customers, and particularly in rural areas, they might have a farm, a dairy farm that they're operating, but it might be on the edge of town, and maybe in 10 years' time that could become town. And so they didn't want to build any permanent infrastructure that couldn't be taken down or taken down reasonably easily. So a KlipTank's a great solution there, because when it comes time to turn your dairy farm into a subdivision, it's very easy just to remove the components, and there's no hole in the ground to have to fill up or re-excavate or whatever, and there's no mess, so it's can be taken down very, very easily.
And sorry, I have to go back to the UN thing because it's kind of interesting. How did that even come about? Because it's not every day. You don't just call up the UN and go, "Hey guys, we built a few good tanks, and I'm pretty keen for you guys to do it." How does that even come about? How was that sales process? It's not something that's going to happen overnight, surely.
No, so they, like all big organisations, when they're bidding for something of this scale, they generally publish tenders, and so we were actively looking for projects like this in the tender market, and we started some preliminary conversations with them and exposing them to our product and what it could do. And we very quickly found ourselves on a short list, and then into a more serious series of negotiations, and eventually we were awarded the agreement. Obviously a lot of work went into present the product and present the points of difference with our product to other people's products, But at the end of the day, the KlipTank won through primarily because of that whole model that Ruan already talked about, which is the ability to put small pieces into a container, send containers over, and then unpack them at source, and then distribute them out to remote islands very easily with local transport, and then install them with the local villages.
Yeah. Important to note as well is that our tanks don't need a concrete base, so you can build it pretty much on the dirt, and not on the beach sand. So you'll need to, that's a little bit too fine. But with minimum site preparation, you're ready to go and build on just well compacted ground.
Yeah. And so, how did you guys get into this industry? Like, what were you doing before this? Because I always find it interesting talking to people with what they do, because sometimes you'll talk to people and they'll do some job and you're like, how is that even a job? Like, how did that even come about? So
career-wise prior to KlipTank?
Yeah, so before KlipTank, what were you guys, have you always been in sort of sales, Ian? And what were you guys doing before this?
No, first and foremost, I'm an engineer, mechanical engineering background. But I have spent a lot of time in sales, selling high value engineering products, and KlipTank were looking for somebody to basically come in and do some sales, and I happened to have a gap in my program at that time, and I knew some people that were working here, and got introduced to the company, and I thought I was only going to be maybe a 1 year, 18-month gig. But I'm 11 years in now, so it's ended up being a pretty solid and rewarding career, actually. Yeah.
And yourself, Ruan? You're obviously you've got a really strong New Zealand accent. I can see there.
Yeah, I've actually just yesterday. I've been 5 years in the country, so woohoo!
Nice.
But prior to, I started out as a fitter and turner tradesman. Completed my mechanical engineering as well, and worked for a substantial time in the power station industry in South Africa as a tradesman. Then went on to do engineering and eventually project management for a company that manufactures mine processing equipment in South Africa, Malvern Engineering. Worked for them for over 10 years, and then worked as a maintenance manager in Cape Town for a company that recovered redundant telecommunication cables from the ocean bed, and then mechanically disassembled them. Since being in New Zealand, I've been much involved in structural steel projects for probably a year and a half, and just over a year doing ASME pressure vessels, piping systems, mostly welding. Did do quite a bit of tanks during that time as well, but it's all welded tanks with domed ends, like for turpentine decanters. So when I came to KlipTank, I wasn't exactly sure what they were. It sounded like an Afrikaans word with a K at the beginning there, and I was like, I wonder if this is a sapper at this place, KlipTank. Quickly learned that it wasn't, but yeah, very, very blessed to have been part of this group. I got on board just under 2 years ago, and came up as an operations manager, and have, as of the 1st of April, been promoted to GM here.
And so how has that changed, in terms of is that your first time being general manager of a business, or?
Yes.
Yeah, and so how have you found the change in terms of, I guess, that role, right? Because suddenly some people love the leadership role of sort of having to organise and manage your different teams, whereas some people, they get into that role and they're like, that's not me. Whereas for me, for example, that's where I flourish. I love managing projects, and I love having lots of people that are doing different things, and organising.
Managing all those processes during the operation was really good for me. What has been beneficial for me is that the team has appreciated my inputs and has pushed me forward towards this position. I was definitely not gunning for it. It's everybody that worked here that said, man, you need to go for this because you're the right man for the job. So I put my hand up, and I'm happy that I was considered. It's early days, so let's talk in a year's time.
Cool. And so in terms of KlipTank, where have you seen the opportunities, or I guess challenges as well, with the whole Three Waters thing that's been going on over the last couple of years? Because that's a big, I guess, government discussion and general public chat around where that sits. How has that provided opportunities even for you guys?
Yeah, the first part of it is that projects that are for a municipal, they tend to be located, particularly water storage, they tend to be located on hills above the town. So it's really important that those the tanks that are used in that environment are engineered in such a way as that they have a very, very slim chance of ever failing and causing, danger to people. And the type of tanks that fit that sort of requirement are generally made out of steel and on very, very substantial concrete foundations. That wasn't our business, and so we found in talking to the municipals about our KlipTank solution, it was good, and it's great for distributed community systems that are out in more rural type settings. But when you've got a large body of water up above a village, for example, or a town, that's not quite the solution that they were looking for. And we learned that they're wanting longer design lives, 50 years plus, and importance levels, which is a rating of the ability to withstand a serious event, be that a weather event, or an earthquake, or things like this that could cause it to just get destroyed or fail. And so we've teamed up with an organisation from Australia called Tank Vision, and we're now the representatives of Tank Vision in New Zealand. And those tanks are of that style, and they're more expensive than a KlipTank, but they fit a different purpose. And so it's just extended the range of tanks that KlipTank's able to offer in the marketplace. And so where it's appropriate, we basically lead with the Tank Vision tanks, and where it's appropriate, we lead with the KlipTanks. And it just gives us a diverse range of solutions for the markets that we're working in.
Yeah, and so with that then, with the KlipTank solution, let's say it wasn't in the Three Waters world, but let's say someone did come to you wanting a different sort of solution, are you able to develop, because some businesses like to stick to their product sets, right? It's like, I've got this, you buy it like this, we don't want to customize it, there's too much work involved with that. But are you guys open to sort of having custom solutions?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are to a certain degree. We definitely are tank builders, but if we saw the opportunity and it was scalable to build, for instance, a clip shed, we could do that, or a clip fence. But it needs to be something that is a long-term vision and will become part of our brand and part of our product range. So we do have that desire to eventually have clip technologies rather than just clip tanks, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, and the evolution of the KlipTank from the very first concept has been an ongoing, engineering development. Many of those developments have been custom project driven. So when we find a new market, we look at what else is required to make that system work. For example, in the dairy market, there was a number of ways that we had to connect to the existing farm infrastructure. Pumps and sumps and collection points and things like that existed on the farm. So we, adapted the tank and the various accessories or fittings that are on the tank to make them work in that environment. And things like floating covers, things like the roofs, they were developments, particularly the roof and the insect filters. We also have systems where we evacuate air from underneath the tank to get rid of things like odor in effluent management tanks with roofs on, and we had to create filter systems and bark filters to reduce the odor and the fans. So we've been very much at designing custom solutions where it makes sense, and so we just because we've got a good engineering background in the company, we just tackle it from a first principles point of view, understand what the requirements are, go away, do some conceptual designs, and then we've got all the CAD systems, and we can design the parts, and we've got the fabrication capabilities either in-house or with other partners that we can use. Ryan, you might like to add something to that as well.
We just had our my first sale, I'm not in sales. I just had my first sale for Dominion Salt here in Tauranga. And we're doing a very custom tank for them. Obviously, they have a byproduct with brine that needs capturing, and it actually eventually ends up within our foods. A tuna can maybe. But so it's a pretty abrasive product. And because it would eat away at the aluminium, we've designed a stainless steel tank for them, same principle, but it's a manufactured tank rather than extrusion. All the ropes are stainless, all the parts, the roofs, everything is stainless steel, a very special liner that's inside of it. It's also having to be the same height as the other tanks that they have there, so that they can basically work at the same level at all times. And that is not a standard height for us. Our standard heights are 2.4, 3, and they needed a tank of 3.6 meters high. So we've provided that as a solution for them. So we are flexible in what we can supply.
Yeah.
But obviously it comes with a price tag if it's more custom, right?
Yeah, to a certain degree, but it's not really much more money for a longer panel or anything like that.
Okay.
Per meterage is pretty much the same. Obviously the price between aluminium and stainless is way different, and the manufacturing process of having to weld those parts together is much more time consuming than rolling an aluminium extrusion, so that cost it reflects that sort of process.
That ability to customize, a standard offering is a really important point of differentiation when we get into a number of sales. If you're very rigid about how things need to be done, sometimes it just doesn't work. And that with only a small amount of customization, we can make something that fits the purpose very, very well. And that's what we do.
Cool. And so in terms of marketing, the way that you reach a regional farmer audience is very different to people obviously wanting to buy t-shirts or a much more normal consumer product. So how have you guys found that change over since starting to now, and where digital's played into that and events and things like that?
Yeah, so going back to when I started with the company, 11 years ago, we didn't really know exactly how to approach some of the existing markets, but we knew we wanted to talk to dairy farmers, and we knew that the field days was a place to be, and we knew that there was a couple of good publications like Farmers Weekly and Dairy News, for example. So we were advertising in there, and we were getting some good stream of inquiries and a good number of leads from the field days, and that's been pretty much how things have developed over time. But of course the marketing techniques have changed a lot, particularly with social media and just different channels that people can look at. So we're trying to come to terms with that right now, and we've had to redevelop our website and try and increase our social media sort of awareness. And one of the reasons we're sitting down talking with you today is to try and expand our understanding of how these things work, and to get some new content on our website, and just to basically get a different kind of message out there, a different style of message. And so it's very much a learning curve, but we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of the audience that you talk to and that purchases your product is a big part of any business, right? Because and with your business, I'm not going to assume, I'm pretty sure I know, but who is it that you generally are talking to? Who are the decision makers that that you have to influence?
Yeah, so in the farming industry, it's pretty easy. The farm owner is omnipresent. Often they even work on the farm. There are some more corporatized farmers where it's a more traditional business structure, and C-level people sitting in offices and stuff like this. So we need to be able to do cater for both scenarios. But many farms in New Zealand are owner-operators, and we talk to those people. And in the beginning, we often just drove up their driveways and knocked on their doors even, and handed out brochures to their letterboxes. And it was pretty basic in the beginning, just to get some level of activity going.
Word of mouth is a big thing as well. One happy farmer tells his neighbour,
Yeah,
Totally.
it's funny, because one of my friends has they have a hay business, so they sell hay all around New Zealand. I think it's called Sup, and it's really interesting listening to how he does his marketing. Because, for example, having a website is, for him, there's no real value in it, because one, if someone wants hay, they're going to call him and it's more of an urgent situation, and he might not even have hay to sell. So it's a very relationship focused thing where he literally has his sales team knocking on doors and turning up with red bands, and you know what I mean, like being that traditional person that people relate to, rather than, obviously there is a value in having a presence and people knowing where to find you, but a big part of it
is relationship. Especially
right?
on the council side, where that's retained business for us. If once we've supplied one tank to a specific council, there's a good chance we're going to supply a second one in time.
Yeah, and they're a real slow burn. I mean, they make planning decisions years out, so you can start a conversation with them, and it might be quite a long time before that project actually comes to reality. And but it's about being in the game, and they have their processes and we have ours, and we work with them. And the council process is a slightly longer process than many others, but in industry it's similar but different. They tend to make the decisions a little faster, but you've still got to be talking to the right people. There's CapEx processes that they go through, and so you've got to be working with the technical buyers, and then you've got to be working with the financial buyers, and basically making sure that the guy that's actually writing the check or paying the money is totally happy with it as well. So you've got to deal with multiple levels in the organisation, and sometimes those things can take time as well. And but they can be big spends as well. Big projects, turnkey style projects that require a lot of working with other parties to deliver the things that connect to the tank. There's nearly always things that are pumping liquids into the tank and pumping liquids out of the tank, and so there's a lot of important connections to other parts of their plants and processes and things like this. So you've got to cover
with
those
the right
off.
guys as well.
Absolutely.
So we partner with Think Water in New Zealand. We are the preferred supplier for tanks, together with the Rotomolder guys, Devon. And then also we've got different partners all over the country that promote our products in different markets.
Correct. We've got people who are focused on the dairy industry dotted throughout the country. We've got other people that are focused on delivering, water, drinking water type solutions, and we've got other people that are focused on the sort of wastewater side, and they tend to be more the engineering community. But they get called up by companies who've got waste problems, and they have to go through a lot of environmental planning, and nearly always as part of that process there's storage requirements, and maybe some irrigation to land, or maybe other techniques involving separation of solids or separation of fats and things like this. So there's quite a complex set of things that they've got to go through, and they've got to get the ticks in the box before they can even embark on their the operation of their whatever they're doing, whether they're making meat or vegetables or whatever. So those plants can't even operate if they don't get a resource consent, and sometimes that's quite involved, and we get involved in that process, and sometimes the process can take years. And
that's probably why you've been at 18 years.
Not quite 18, but you're getting there. No, like one of the markets that we've sort of identified as a primo market for the steel bolted tank has been the fire industry, because of the new regulation in the country that's 2 or 3 years old now, that we have to be complying with a fire tank at big warehousing like Pack and Save or a warehouse or any of those. They need to comply, and also all new buildings that's coming up needs this fire tank. So that's really an important level that the steel bolted tank, the Tank Vision brand fulfills. So that's our low-hanging fruit at the moment in that sort of sector, and that's where we really focused on and target that sort of audience.
Cool. Well, Yeah, I think I'm pretty much, I think I'm swimming in a water tank right now.
That's it. And we've got big ones. If you want to drive a jet ski on top of a tank, come speak to KlipTank.
Yeah. Cool. Well, nice to have you guys on.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
Good for the exposure.
Thanks for tuning in to another Squid Group podcast. If you're looking for a marketing partner to grow your brand, business, or event, contact us here at Squid Group. See you next time.